And the very dapper looking Ujjwal Dubey. Urvashi, who? Which one do we want to begin with?
Well, I think we'll start because, you know, we'll, in case anyone
Do you want to
wants
introduce the
rush.
women you've brought with you, your girl tribe?
I don't think they need any introduction. It is, they're highly acclaimed in their own fields and great supporters of the brand and, of course, of sustainability and empowerment. I think it really stands to, you know, it's about celebrating where India's pushing ourselves, and we're taking pride in who we are, our heritage, our womenhood, if I can say so. You know, it's about time. I think strong, bold, we need to create noises, and we need to create them globally. We need to really embrace our Indianness and do it in a very global way, in a very wearable way. I think it's truly encouraging to see that every artist, every celebrity, every influencer, every person that has the power to bring about change is doing their little bit, and really, because that's why, the reason they are here to support what I do and what I create, and they are showing it in the way it is to be seen and perceived as something that takes your own personality. It takes, this is about something much larger than the collection or the designer or what I'm doing. It's about pushing boundaries. It's about embracing yourself, and you know, the fact that I also do everything that I put the man in, I also put the woman in. There is absolutely no change in the fit, in the cut, in the pattern making, nothing. Even in the direction of the buttons and the zippers. It's like it is, it's truly androgynous. It is breaking the norms of perception and how society defines us and tells us to view ourselves. And I think we need to break those shackles, and we need to just be ourselves and be absolutely, you know, just truly celebrate yourself and the world. And I think great people are made of great minds and great passions and great determination. And, you know, I think everyone here truly stands for who they are and truly has worked to get to where they are. And it is a true honor to be surrounded by such incredible women, such powerful women, and they are helping bring this change to millions and millions of people in India and abroad, and taking our voices internationally and within India, and changing the perception of how we view khadi and how we view sustainable, how we view Indian textiles, how we view ourselves. So I think that's a little bit about everyone here, of course. There is, like I said, no introductions needed, but I will still give them, you know, since you asked, Malika Dua and Tilotma Shom. We have Sarah Jane, and we have Priyanka Bose, and we have Ujjwal Dubey.
The girl tribe.
He's whatever he needs to be here, proud and a fellow designer and doing his great work.
Yes, I think both of your passions with wanting to work with sustainable fashion is really what binds you both. Ujjwal, do you want to talk to us about your collection that you showcased today?
Yeah, I'm sure everybody must have seen it by now, but still. We were talking about, I mean, all these 5 years we've been only working on human expressions, and this one is a part of that. We were talking about the Zen spiritual state moving towards the mess and then realizations and coming back to the Zen. Basically the God, man, God situation. That's what we wanted to represent through the collection symbolically in a way, with the white neater cuts moving towards the layers and the drapes and the colors adding on. The mess basically is visible, and then moving towards the white again, but a bit messier white, which is the human God. So that was the idea. Through all this is the outer frame basically of all the experiences that we go through, the pride that we build, the downfalls and everything. So it's a mix of all, and it's part of the expression and experiences that we have been through, all the humans. Yeah, that's about it. That's the collection. And yeah, what you've seen, I don't know about sustainable part. If you want me to talk about it?
mean, yes, you're back at Lakme Fashion Week, and this time you're back at Sustainable Fashion Day. So I think something along those lines in your thoughts, because, you know, Urvashi
We're
spoke
talking a
very-
lot about that, sustainability and the constant word. It's been hitting my head for so long. And I think it's become a trend. I think it's not locally grown. It's something that has come from somewhere else. We, as Indians, have always been sustainable, I think, in some or the other way. I'm not talking about the first world cities. In this first world cities like Bombay, Delhi, and every other city, I think still people are a bit conscious. There are some people who already have this ingrained quality of sustaining everything, recycling, using, thinking, conscious consuming, everything. I mean, I think 95% of India has been like that. And recently, as I read in a study, by end of June, we consumed all the resources we should have consumed in a year of this planet Earth. And another thing that I read was how if these 7.5 billion people on Earth, if they consume as much as a normal American consumes, then we need five planets. And if we consume as an average Indian, we require 0.75 planets. So that's the idea. Basically, I know it's hitting everybody. I think the new word needs to come in. It's a bit too much about sustainability. We've been talking about it. Nobody, I'm sure many people do practice, but the point is, it's just a conscious thought about everything that you do. It's your DNA. It starts from your home, right from the amount of water you use, the papers that you waste, recycling, thinking, just a little bit of thought towards whatever you do. If that works, I think everything should work.
I think to add to the aspect of how sustainability in itself, or the word, is sort of, given a very small meaning in this trend sort of buzzword. I think sustainable in itself, really, the deeper meaning of it is to be able to sustain life, sustain humanity, sustain ourselves, sustain cultures, sustain everything. And like he said, starts from every aspect, and we have to just become more conscious, more aware, and just simply, in India, I think if you just go back to our roots and try and embrace ourselves and not sort of follow, so I think
as a word also, sustainability as a word,
yeah,
I don't think
it's just being
India's ever created their own.
It's
not a, because
It's
people
a
are
way
cashing
of
on
life.
it also.
It's a way of
understand
life.
that point.
It's
The
meant
point
to-
is, I think these terms and whatever, the handloom started, people started liking abroad, the inflow started from India, people started liking suddenly. I don't know what direction we are going in. We have no idea. Probably consciously, non-consciously as well.
Conscious living.
My whole point was, I think it's time that we think of a better word for ourselves. If we can't, at least a word. Why? The conscious is something that we think of, and not sustainability, because it's been overdone now, and now people think, sustainability is everything about cotton and polyester, and in many cases very contradictory, because cotton takes more water than polyester, and so many things to think about. It's just not even,
it's
not
a
even sustainable.
very large dialogue. The aim is really to sort of have people really understand that it is more than, it is to believe, to have an integrity, to have this sense of commitment, because we're all doing businesses at the end of the day. But if you can do whatever little carbon footprint you're putting in there or more, just be as conscious as possible. Even a drop, if millions of everybody puts one drop in the ocean, it does count for a lot. So I think it's just to encourage everybody to just become more aware and just to not go anti-trend entirely, and just go back to the beauty of design in the space of fashion, in this field of fashion. Just celebrate design, celebrate crafts, celebrate, the human element, that goes through it, and just celebrate it, really.
That's beautiful.
Would you want everyone to just, why not?
I would love to hear from them, yes.
I mean, just sustainable, again, it's not a fashion statement for me. I definitely am checking myself because I'm not a very big buyer, but I like things and mostly clothes. So now, we've all grown up with like hand-me-downs and everything, and I just feel like as a practice, it just works for me. I don't want to be in a position to buy any more clothes anymore. As long as I know designers like this, I will always pick up the phone and ask them and return it respectfully is how I want to see my sustainability growing. And of course, the ecosystem in my home takes care of itself, but we're trying to be as mindful as possible. But the fashion industry, definitely, we coexist. So this is how I am trying to be a little bit more
It
mindful.
should not be a statement. It's a need of the hour. It's something that we are, I think we've been taken for granted for a long time from our educational system as well. Because it's understood that humans हैं, तो ethics तो होगा ही. नहीं. No, nobody teaches us ethics.
No.
Full on, doesn't matter, it's copy, it's non-copy, sustainable, non-sustainable, ethical, non-ethical. Nobody thinks about this. We learn all these colonial books, and we get into this industrialization system following these capitalists. I'm not saying I'm a communist, but I'm just saying, being too political here. But we are flowing in that direction unknowingly. But I think just need to be conscious, that's all.
I
That
think
should be
each
the
one
one.
of us making our more individual conscious choices towards making a better future. I think
Yeah.
Would you like to add something?
Not really. I think everything's been pretty much covered. I agree with everything everyone said. Honestly, I really have nothing to add. I think it starts at home, which is something that Ujjwal said. That's very important. My mom always said charity begins at home. And I grew up in the Middle East, and we paid water bills, which we in India have no idea what that's like. And by default of that, we had to be very particular about how we used water and electricity at home. So I think it's just the little things. And I think, again, I'm going to go back to what Ujjwal said about just being conscious, because I think that if everyone does their part, it will trickle down and it will become part of the bigger picture. So that's really it.
I think we agree.
Okay. So I can't say I know much about what constitutes sustainable clothing, because I just found out that, you know, things like cotton uses up more water than polyester and things like that. But for me, it came from a very selfish need to feel better. And I feel that, like, when I wear polyester and when I wear something that is too synthetic, I don't feel nice. I feel better when I wear something like this or something that breathes. And the same goes for what we eat. And I think there's something to say there, you know, that if it's making you feel a certain way, then clearly there's a story behind it. More than that, I mean, we can't go so far in our desire to mass produce and be greedy and just go completely crazy that we forget that there is a planet that we inhabit. Matlab, where will you do all this fashion if the planet only doesn't exist? So, and it's nice, like, it's a nice vibe, I feel. Like, when you're doing something good and you're looking good while doing it. Again, I don't know the science and the details behind, because I recently read some article about why sustainable fashion is not exactly sustainable, and I don't know what. So there's there's just so much counter opinion about everything, but
As there always is.
yeah. So I mean, it feels right.
I think the word sustain is to just be able to sustain any one thing that you commit to.
Yeah.
And be able to, I mean, on one hand, you know, it's about slow fashion. It's about not following trends and doing, like in my collections, it's all trans-seasonal. So I do not put autumn, winter. I do not put spring, summer. I encourage people to buy the collections, and there is no waste produced. So you are not just you know, over-consuming and over-producing. You're also encouraging people to buy seasons after the collection was launched. It's not out of fashion. It is not trend. It's simply how you feel when you wear it. And although there is this aspect of slowing down, and we must be conscious of how much we're consuming, the excess, but it's all driven by this business of fashion that sort of tells you, you know, we've created trends to want to produce more and sell more. But the communities that we support, or the people that are the artisans and the craftsmen and the weavers and you know, the block makers, and we need to support their communities and sustain their livelihoods. So, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I guess so.
You most. I think we're going to finish.
Sorry. Yes, please.
No, I just wanted to know with both of you, I'm from Sydney, Australia, and how did you get interested in this side of fashion? Because it's such a disposable, seasonally daily in Australia. There's piles and piles
Yeah.
of young people that dispose of fashion. I love what you guys do. But how did you both get interested? Like, was it when you first started fashion, or
So,
just now?
no, in my case, yeah, well, I guess we've had different experiences and we'll have different reasons why we chose it. In my case, my father was in the army, in the Indian Army, and we traveled. So as a child, I have been in 12 different towns or villages or cities in 12 years of schooling life. And he was in the infantry. So we were not in cities most of the time. We were in the most rural of places people haven't heard of. If I start to rattle off the names, you're like, okay, does it exist on the map of India? But yes, it does. So these are, some of them are literally in wilderness. So I was surrounded by nature. I was surrounded, I grew up in towns where there were many weaving clusters around and my mom, being a lover of textiles and an artist herself, we would go into these little villages and towns and tribal places even in Arunachal, and I would remember she'd just start drawing and sketching out there, and we'd start to get to know about these people and their lives and their cultures, and then costumes and their cultural costumes were a part of who they were. In some cultures, they even bury themselves with everything that they own, from their jewelry to their sword, the Mishmi tribes in Arunachal. And I remember, because we used to say, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. We wanted to acquire some of what they were wearing, because we knew that it's never going to be seen, and I don't know where we could. It was just so beautiful aesthetically and very culturally relevant to them, and very, there was a whole identity behind what I was seeing. And my mom used to just drag us to these places, and I grew up learning about the saris of every state, because I've lived in almost so many states. And so it was a natural, yes, it was a natural progression. My grandmother was probably the first fashionista that I ever got exposed to. She actually was a poetess, fought for the freedom of our country, gave away every European clothing that they owned, and they fought for what they believed was a much larger cause. I think since independence, we've somewhat lost that purpose, other than the individual purpose of earning more money or getting more success or your own travel, and you're trying to only, sort of please yourself and your senses. But when there is a larger cause that you are sort of believe in, and you want to come together and really bring about this change, I think there's something greater in that humanity that comes out. And so I come from this lineage of women that just broke every norm there was to decide to live. And she turned her entire garage into a Godrej, almirahs filled with saris and juttis and, textile and